So, in this gigantic imaginary company that I'm drafting the management information system for, um, well, I don't really know how big it is. It's imaginary. So, let's say it's a startup that's trying to be big. I would probably begin using a cloud based service like Amazon Web Services because that allows for really flexible scaling and the cost is relatively very cheap. Um, for a new company buying a whole bunch of servers all over the globe, it's just not feasible or costly. So using a system like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft's Azure or Google's Cloud really is the way to go. Um, Amazon Web Services provides just so many amazing tools that you can use for automation. Like, for example, if you're starting up an EC2 server, which is like, I mean, you can choose what type. Usually it's like a Linux server of some kind. You can include in the instructions command line code for every EC2 server that starts up in order to program it to, I don't know, get all of the programs that you want on it already. So it'll execute that script every time a new EC2 server is generated, which is really cool and handy. Um, there's a massive amount of documentation and information available so that you can understand how these tools work. And I mean, which is great because there's a really wide range of tools. So it just allows for, even as you scale into being a large enterprise, using a system like Amazon Web Services is very, very valuable because you have so many tools all bundled into the system that you're using. Another benefit of using Amazon Web Services or a different cloud service, especially if this, like if it's a website, is that Amazon Web Services is almost never down, and if it is down, then almost all of the rest of the internet is down too. So having that reliability that your application, your website, your server infrastructure is going to be up pretty much 24/7 with like a 99.99999% certainty is very valuable, and it kind of just comes included with the fact that you're using a cloud service, which is really nice. In constructing a system, let's say the company is an app like Uber. Let's just say it's Uber. We're starting up Uber. We're going back in time and starting up Uber. It is important to try and set up the architecture ahead of time so that you're not just kind of adding things that you need as you go and letting it collect into this big ball of mud that you can't just stop using it because the entire app would crash if you stopped using your system. It's just all these different components haphazardly slapped together. If you are able to plan ahead and actually have an infrastructure that makes sense, that's going to pay massive dividends down the line when everything is working smoothly rather than getting clogged up and all messed up. It's very difficult to plan ahead to the point where you know exactly what you'll need in 10 years, or maybe not 10 years, but like in 2 or 3 years, if the app has gone from 3,000 people to 30 million, there's going to be massive changes in the way that it's structured. But if you can plan ahead as much as you can, having a good infrastructure from the get-go and a good architecture for how it can grow and not get bogged down by its own growth is massively critical in ensuring that everything works well. For actual like on-site hardware, like actual physical computers and like keyboards and mouses and whatnot and monitors, I would probably use a system like Dell Pro Support. For companies where you don't really want to be held personally liable for, like, if the graphics card on a computer stops working, Dell has a fantastic deal where you pay like $200 a year or something, and if something goes wrong with any given computer, they'll send you whatever parts are needed to replace it. I work as a Dell Pro Support agent, which is why I even know what it is. But it's a good enough service where I would definitely pay to use it as a company because it takes so much liability and difficulty off of you, the business owner, or the IT personnel working for that company. You can just call Dell and they might try replacing. I mean, they'll probably try like, okay, let's update the BIOS or update the drivers first, but they'll do whatever needs to be done, replace the hard drive, replace the motherboard, and if after like 3 parts dispatches they can't get it replaced, can't get it fixed, they will just probably go about getting a system exchange and giving you a new computer, which as a business owner trying to set up a good IT system, that's a really valuable service, and it'd be something I would look into in my own business pursuits. So if this is a tech startup of some kind, the company's probably going to be employing a team of programmers, and having programmers all work in a group can be very difficult. So it's important to have a good project manager and a good system in place for how this all this work that the programmers are doing will be organized so that we actually have a complete project at the end of the day. A lot of companies use systems like Agile. A lot of people also hate Agile and prefer just the good old waterfall method. Both have their pros and cons. I like waterfall for my personal projects due to its just simplicity, but in my own personal projects, I tend to just kind of hack through it until I get a program that works. For a group, a system like Agile may be more beneficial because it allows for more meetings, but often meetings can just interrupt programmers and it kind of leads to no one getting any work done. With any good work project or even solo project, I think it's important to use a version control system like Git or GitHub, because that allows you a way for everyone to be working on the same code at once, and if someone has a contribution that they think is worthwhile enough to actually add to the code, they can submit a merge request, and if it's good enough, it'll be made into a part of the main source code for everybody else to use. And it's just a good way of making sure that data is backed up. No one just randomly changes the code and destroys everything, and oh, we lost a backup, so I guess we're just screwed now. Systems like GitHub are very, very valuable for an individual coding, but especially an organization, because it just makes organization so much easier. It just makes perfect sense to use something like that.